Hello everyone. Uh, Hello everyone. Welcome to this final day of our AWS reInvent recap 2024. In the last 2 days, we covered some of the biggest AWS announcements and with hands-on. In day one, we covered a few areas in generative AI and cloud infrastructure. In day two, we covered a little bit of hands-on on unified SageMaker Studio and also some insights on storage and developer tools. So now it's time for our final session. So today's focus will be on data analytics, business integration, and security. So these are also some critical areas for businesses who are leveraging AWS. So let me introduce our first speaker of today. Adit is a solutions architect at Lauren, and he is an AWS community builder, specializing in data analytics and business integration. So in this session, he'll cover like how businesses can use AWS services to process, analyze, and integrate data effectively. So also he'll go on with some hands-on. Also, he'll tell what are the best practices that we can do in these services so that we can improve our data driven decision making. So this session is going to be super informative, so let's get started. So Adit, so
Yeah, thanks, Bhubalan, for the introduction. And I think the 2 days were really insightful. The AWS reInvent recap 2024 has been interesting. I saw very good, insights from Vivek, Avinash, and then from AJ and yourself, right? So,
yes.
really good work. I'll present my screen and then
Yeah.
share on the insights for today. My screen is visible, right? You can see the screen, right?
Yes, Adit, your screen is visible. You can start.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Welcome to this session on AWS reInvent Recap 2024. The topics that I'm going to be covering today would be around AWS analytics. Then it would be on business applications and app integration. Those are the three topics I will cover, and then I think Abhilasha Vash will be following up with something on security. So I'll briefly go over the introduction about myself. So I work as a solution architect at Lauren, and Lauren is an AWS advanced partner. About myself, I am a 12x AWS certified, so I've got 12 AWS certifications, and you can also see that golden jacket there. So that's about me. I'm also part of AWS user group Vadodara, and also an AWS community builder. So that's about myself. I'll quickly jump on the agenda. So we'll start off with AWS analytics. The couple of announcements within the AWS analytics space, but for me, there were two key takeaways from the AWS analytics announcements, right? So one of the key takeaways was the announcement on AWS SageMaker Unified Studio. Vivek covered it pretty well in the first day, and then another one of the important announcements was in the AWS SageMaker Lakehouse, which AJ covered really well in this day two, right? There was one more interesting announcement around a BI tool like QuickSight, right? So QuickSight got a scenario analysis. So we will discuss, or I'll go hands-on, or maybe share some insights on that particular part of it. And one of the another important announcements was around business applications, and also around the app integration. So I'll go over the key takeaways for me, or something that I found really helpful before we start off the business applications and the app integration. But yeah, for analytics, the two main things were around the SageMaker, or the three main things were SageMaker Unified Studio, SageMaker Lakehouse, and the QuickSight scenario analysis. Okay. So yeah, first off, the new thing that was announced was Express Brokers for Amazon MSK. So Few caveats here. Here, when you on the screen, when you see something like GA, it means general availability, and there are also things like when it was announced, and whatever regions are being supported, along with the QR code where you can just scan and see the actual blog post for it. Okay, just sharing few things. So what is Amazon MSK, right? Amazon MSK, right? So MSK is nothing but Amazon's managed streaming service for Kafka. So Kafka is something that you use for event-driven architectures for pulling data from different sources and pushing data to different sources. Something like a Kafka is used. Now, AWS has something called an MSK, which is a managed service for Kafka. Uh, there are two different things that, or two different cluster types that Amazon MSK supports. One is a provisioned type, and one is a serverless type. You can see both of them in the screen, provisioned as well as serverless. Now, within provision, there are two different things. One was a standard broker, and the newly announced thing is an express broker. Now express broker is like a new broker type that it was announced. What it offers is it reduces storage operations. Like you don't have to worry about what is the different storages I can do. It also has more throughput per broker. So standard brokers were limited in the throughput that they were able to offer. So there is a 3x more throughput that it offers. Then it can scale 20x faster. So there is a lot of scale that is offered as part of the express broker, and it reduces the recovery time by 90%. So recovery time is something like when you use a broker, it has it needs to be certainly available, and highly available, as well as can be used for multiple operations. So that's again better in express broker. Now the caveat here is, why would you typically use an express broker over a standard broker? So express broker gives you the added throughput, more storage operations, faster scalability, but it comes at a cost, right? So the cost would be more for an express broker compared to a standard broker, right? And now, so you understand why you would use a express broker versus a standard broker. There's also one thing called serverless offering. So why would you choose express broker over a serverless option? Is the simple reason is you get more configuration options. So you can maybe configure things like your storage, your broker size, etc., etc. Whereas in serverless, it's all provisioned for you. Okay, so these are the three different types: serverless and provisioned, within provisioned, express, and standard broker. Okay. Next off is the database CDC with Amazon Data Firehouse. Now this is public preview. I'm assuming it might have already been GA, but I'm not too sure. Just check once. Right now it's public preview, and it's available in all regions. Now what this particular service or what does a CDC mean? So CDC is change data capture. Now, change data capture means whenever there is a change in your database, it needs to be replicated to the destination. So there's a source and a destination, right? So source is probably a database, and destination is probably something like uh, S3, or maybe some other application. Maybe it's something like a warehouse, right? Or a data lake, right? So whenever there's a change in your database, that has to be replicated and visible in your destination. That's what's called a change data capture. Now, Firehose is a service that we use for store, like getting data from source and putting it into the destination in real time, right? So now what this particular announcement or feature means is, if there is so they announced that um, the Amazon Data Firehouse has two different databases, right? So something like a so you can have a source of MySQL or Postgres database. So these two are supported as part of the source in Data Firehouse, and as part of the destination, you can use something like an Apache Iceberg tables, which is in S3. So with this particular change, what happens is, if there is a so there is, when you create this Firehose stream, you're initially creating a database, and the database entries are replicated into your Iceberg tables. But when there is a changes in your database, maybe SQL or Postgres has changes, then those changes are replicated in real time to your iceberg tables. So that is the new announcement that was done. Again, you can scan the code to learn more about it. The next announcement or next change is around throughput increase for KDS. So KDS is Kinesis data streams, and it has an on-demand mode. That on-demand mode got more 5x increase in terms of its uh, write capacity and consumer read capacity, right? So earlier it was like 2 GB per stream. Now it became 10 GB. Earlier, the consumers could read up to maybe 5 GB. Now it became 20 GB. So there was an increase in the throughput capacity for writes and reads, right? The next particular important update was in AWS Glue. So AWS Glue is like a serverless ETL, extract, transform, and load for your transactions. So something like maybe there is some source and you want to extract from the source, transform the data, and then load it into your storage or database. You could use something like a Glue for it, right? And it's a serverless ETL, right? Now with Glue, there are some AI upgrades to it, right? Now what essentially it means is if there was an application in Glue, Glue job, you would essentially maybe have something like a AWS Glue version, right? So maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3. Now with this AI upgrades, you could run upgrade on that particular job and upgrade it from a older version to a newer version, and the developer or the data engineer doesn't have to spend time modernizing the Spark application. There's more information that link. It's in public preview. I'll showcase some demo kind of thing for this. So yeah, first in this particular screen that you see, I have two glue jobs, right? If I click on this glue job, and probably I'll just have to sign in again. Just allow me some time. Yeah, so you see there are two glue jobs that I've created. Now, if you just click on one of the glue jobs and probably job details, you will see that I've used a glue version which is like 2.2, right? So this is an older version of glue. Now I could get an option of we do an upgrade analysis, right? So I'll just show you in actions and run upgrade analysis. What it's offering is you can have an S3 bucket as a result, and you can also have the different configuration that you can do. Maybe some worker type, then there is some number of workers you can use, some timeout, some security features, etc., etc. Right? I'll just show you in one of the blog posts that was shared in that particular slides how it works essentially, right? So you see in the screen there's a code for maybe Glue 2.0 version, and then in the other screen there's a code for Glue 4.0 version, right? So this is the upgrade that this particular AI does in the backend. You just have to click on the options that I was showing you in the screen, and then it's able to upgrade for you, right? So essentially, you click on it, you edit job, you run an upgrade. You need to add the configurations that I was talking about. Once you've done that, it's basically going to be run, and it's going to be upgrading your particular code. Now, the way why this is helpful is because you don't have to manually make these upgrades, right? Uh, it's the AI is doing it for you internally, right? So this is why it's an important feature to be had in an AWS Glue, right? So that's about AI upgrades for Apache Spark in Glue. So next up is going to be something like a AWS clean rooms, right? Now, clean rooms is again another one of the AWS services which is used for data sources, privacy for multiple clouds. Now, prior to reInvent, AWS clean rooms had got a new capability. Now, this capability was you could have your custom modules like training and machine learning tasks to be done on the data sets that are part of this AWS clean rooms. And this was you could train the data and get the inference on the particular data using the ML models without like privacy, without sharing this sensitive data or uh, privacy issues, right? So this was the update before reinvent. Now during reinvent, there's two more things that were announced. So the data sources as part of the clean rooms got two updates. So you could have Athena as a data source, as well as you could have Snowflake as a data source in this AWS clean rooms. So this was the new thing that they announced, and again, it's available across all the regions. Next up is the big announcement. So I discussed in the beginning that there are three major announcements then when it comes to data analytics. One of them was the SageMaker Unified Studio. Now, what SageMaker's Unified Studio does is it gives a centralized view for all of your data, analytics, AI, and governance all in one place, right? You have things like data catalog. You have things like maybe you can go to a generative AI playground and explore more. Also, you can see the different apps and prompts that are pre-built for you, right? So there's a lot of information in this SageMaker Unified Studio, and I would highly recommend everyone to check out the day one's video or playlist and see the updates that were shared by Vivek. Vivek actually went into the screen and showed how you could work with a SageMaker Unified Studio and do some hands-on. So I would highly recommend you go check out that video, and you'll get more insights on how SageMaker Unified Studio works and how it becomes a center for all of your data, AI, analytics, and governance, right? So next up is Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse. Now essentially the idea of Lakehouse is you get both the data lake as well as the data warehouse in one place. So it becomes like a unified, open and secure data lake. Sorry, I'm so sorry for that. So it becomes like a unified, open and secure data lakehouse for both of your data lakes as well as data warehouse. So something like maybe an S3 maybe data is stored in an S3, whereas something like a Redshift might have your data warehousing things, right? So both of them will get in a unified place in SageMaker Lakehouse. So essentially, if you want to move your data from maybe data lake to data warehouse, you need not duplicate the data. All of it is available in one place, and you can basically get the data from S3, put it in Redshift, you can take a look at it, and maybe make modifications to it, right? Again, a very hands-on demo was presented by AJ in day two around SageMaker Lakehouse. So I would again recommend you all to go through that particular video and try and understand more on how SageMaker Lakehouse works and how it's very easy to have an integrated platform for your data lakes as well as your data warehouses. Okay. So this was another new feature announcement called data lineage tracking across AWS tools. So essentially, the idea of data lineage is basically you can track how your data is flowing, be it something like an ingestion, then something like a transformations, and something like a visualization. So does the data move across those things? It could be something like maybe data quality, or maybe something like you want to debug what's happening with my data, where is it getting stuck. So all of this tracking of your data can be done with data lineage. um, so there is this is again, you could take a look at this data lineage as part of your data zone slash SageMaker Unified Studio. So again, this is all unified, centralized in that particular SageMaker Unified Studio as a platform. Now, one of the important things to note here is data lineage is open source, so you could use it as an open source thing. So it's not like something that's paid for, but it's integrated as part of the studio, right? So we were discussing on AWS Glue. We discussed that that AI upgrade was possible with Glue, but there's also one interesting thing. So if you are aware, AWS Glue didn't was using a 4.0 version for some time now. So it's been 2 years since we were using the AWS Glue 4.0 version, and recently in reinvent it got an upgrade. So now AWS has a version of 5.0. So in this version, you get improved performance and more security benefits. And it's also a very interesting thing to note that you can get support for Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio. So in Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio, or even in the SageMaker Lakehouse, you could use that Glue 5.0 version. So that's a important thing to note. And also something to note is like there are different upgrades to this 5.0 version. So like you have to have Apache Spark being upgraded, Python being upgraded, Java also being upgraded. So those are the different upgrades that come with any of the version upgrades. So again, to go into the AWS console and maybe share with you that we are looking into the upgrade analysis with AWS or with AI, right? And then here you could also see that I have a Glue version 2.0, but I could even upgrade it to Glue version 5.0, right? Again, I could upgrade it here and then run it, or maybe I could have AI do an upgrade for me from a 2 version to a 5 version, right? That's again something that's possible. And this AWS Glue upgrade is um, really helpful, right? In a way, because you get new versions and you get new updates to it, right? So the one of the last things to consider when it comes to AWS analytics and the updates that were announced as part of the renew and recap is scenario analysis in Amazon QuickSight with Q. So, for the larger audience, Amazon QuickSight is a business analytics tool, BI tool, something very similar to your Power BI or Supersites, etc. Now, what Amazon QuickSight does is you can basically get the data from your, so sorry, yeah, you can get your data from something like an S3 bucket and you can visualize it in QuickSight. The QuickSight integration of Q. So now Amazon Q is your AI powered assistant, right? With Amazon Q, you can ask questions to your data and it could gather feedback and share with you, right? So important thing to note here is Q and QuickSight were already in place. I did a deep dive session on how you can use QuickSight with Q. You can ask your questions in with Q in natural language, and the QuickSight could give you results. But the important thing to note is a scenario analysis, right? Now, this scenario analysis basically means that you could typically ask very custom and in-depth questions to your data or to the data that is present in the QuickSight, and QuickSight would give you the insights from all of this data and to the questions that you have asked, in-depth questions that you have asked, and it will automatically analyze this data and summarize the findings. And then you could also go into multiple questions. So there's an answer to the question, you go in depth of the answer, right? So I'll show you a demo of how this works. This is a pretty interesting feature as far as I'm concerned. I really liked it. So this is something that I've already created. I'll just show you what is being created. So what I've done is basically I have a data set of maybe number of attendees that have attended one of our meetups, right? So this is the data that I have, and in the chart that you see, it shows you some of all the times yes RSVPs was observed, right? So all of the times people said yes to a particular RSVP. Okay, so this is probably the data set as a dashboard. Now I can ask questions to this dashboard. So I can ask something, and I might need to authenticate probably. So so I can ask something like maybe event host names, right? So so it's giving you the event name host for this particular meetup slash event that we did. Now, what I wanted to share was the QuickSight plus Q already supported a lot of these things, right? So QuickSight and Q were able to, I use QuickSight for dashboards, and then I use Q to gather more insights into my data. So this is already supported. Now, what was the scenario analysis, right? Let's discuss on that. I have a blog post that I shared from other QR or the scanned copy of that blog post is present here. I'm just going through or walking you through that and sharing what the new feature does. So in this new feature, um, while you're able to ask questions in natural language and get responses in maybe a dashboard kind of format, so Q plus QuickSight, the scenario analysis is the interesting part here. Now, how the scenario analysis works is you basically ask very tailored question to the um, to your QuickSight or to your data. So something like maybe here in this particular example, they are asking more questions to the data like okay, how does two attendees or how what are the different attendees from a particular company, right? So those are the specific data they're asking, and then they're going into a thread, right? So I'll just uh, so if you look at this, right, it's basically you ask a particular question in the top, and then you can continue in the thread. So basically, I asked one question, and then I'm continuing in thread saying, how would attendee change if we increase the marketing efforts for companies with less than two attendees? So if there are companies who only have two attendees or less than two attendees, how can we do something so that the attendees for that particular company increases? Right? So these are the specific questions they are asking, scenario based. So and then you get more insights into it, right? So here again you're able to see, right, that it's giving you specific answers saying that this is a company, this is an attendee, and this is a potential attendee that could be increased if you did certain things, right? So this is like the scenario analysis that we're talking about, right? um, Okay, cool. So, from a understanding perspective, we discussed on AWS Analytics, and we discussed on few things. We discussed first that there is, um, you know, SageMaker Unified Studio that was announced. There is a few updates to AWS Glue, and then also there are a few updates to something like a MSK, something like a Kinesis, something like Firehose, right? And something like clean rooms as well, right? And then we looked into SageMaker Lakehouse, okay? And finally, we looked into Amazon QuickSight with Q and the additional analysis of scenario, right? That is possible with this new announcement, okay? New feature. Some of the other announcements around AWS Analytics, I think uh, there was one important announcement that was data zone. Now you could use data zone or connect data zone with a JDBC connector, and so that you could use something like maybe Tableau, Power BI to visualize the data from data zone. So that's one important announcement. The another important announcements was in QuickSight only. So QuickSight also you can have insights from both structured and unstructured data in QuickSight. So that was a good enough announcement. Then there were a few announcements around something like Apache Flink, right? So things like maybe you could have destination as Prometheus, AWS managed service for Prometheus. You could have source for DynamoDB. So this were the few announcements. Then Redshift also got one or two interesting announcements. So the one of the interesting announcement was you could have query editor, right? So you could use Q generative as SQL in this particular Redshift query editor, right? So that was something new. And then one of the important things that AWS has been doing from last 1 or 2 years has been the zero ETL integration that it does from for different sources and different destinations, right? So sorry. So yeah, so one of these interesting things that they do is a zero ETL integration. So your data source is something like a database, something like a storage can be integrated with your warehouse, and you don't need to manage or create data pipelines for it. It basically, with a single click in the console, you are able to connect or integrate sources with your destinations, right? So that's the zero ETL. And recently at reInvent they announced DynamoDB zero ETL integration with SageMaker Lakehouse. very interesting, and a lot of the it makes sense for use cases where you have data in DynamoDB and you would like that data to be displayed in SageMaker without you having to create a pipeline for it. So very interesting stuff. So yeah, now moving on to business applications. So for business applications, the important piece was around Amazon Connect. We will discuss that. So first is in business application, there is a service called AWS Supply Chain, and they announced that QuickSight can be integrated directly into this service. So that's something that was announced. The second thing, which is like very important, was new capabilities in Amazon Connect. So Amazon Connect is a service which is used for maybe something like a call center, or so you have different uh, agents or different customers or consumers who call, and then the agents that respond to these calls. So this is Amazon Connect is a service that's used for that. Now, the interesting announcements were around it giving you more security and compliances, as well as it integrating few of the AI part of it, right? So one of the interesting things that was supported was you could define and configure your bot or Lex bot inside the Connect itself. So that was new and interesting thing. And one of the more interesting things was there was a WhatsApp integration that was also supported. So earlier, if I were to use agent or something with Amazon Connect, I would basically need to do a custom connection with WhatsApp. So let's say there is someone who messages me this particular service that I've created, and they message on WhatsApp. Then I had to create a custom connector, right? So now there was an inbuilt support for that as well. So pretty interesting announcements. So moving on, like we discussed in business application, there are few one or two announcements. In app integration as well, there are one or two interesting announcements. So I'll just jump into the few announcements. So there is something called Amazon Event Bridge right now. Event Bridge is basically used for if you have data from different sources and you would like whenever there's a you would like that to be triggered based on certain decisions. Maybe there is some new data that comes in S3, you want like it to be triggered a lambda function, you use something like an event bridge for that, right? So that's the unique purpose of event bridge. Now the announcement was there is a latency reduction in event bridge. Now saying that the latency reduction is 94% at no additional cost. What this essentially means is if you have applications which are like very highly scalable and very highly available, there is always issues of latency when it comes to those applications. And using an event bridge event bus, you could ensure that there is minimal latency because they have improved the latency that was earlier being applied. So you can now detect and respond to critical events quickly, and faster decision making is possible now. Again, it is in general availability, so it's pretty much ready to use as of now. Then there are two announcements with event source mappings. So essentially, the idea is if you have different sources, something like maybe S3, something like maybe Kinesis, something like maybe DynamoDB, all of these are sources, something like SQS, right? And maybe Lambda is a destination, okay? So whenever I want to get data from different sources, rather than lambda checking if data is available in that source and pulling the data from that source, you use something like an event source mapping to get the data from sources. And so the two models, one is a pull model and one is a push model, right? So you could pull the data from like the lambda would pull the data from your sources at regular intervals in time, or you could uh, push the data from your sources via ESM, event source mapping, to your lambda function. So it's a link between your source and lambda. That's event source mapping. Now the announcements, the features that was announced were, one was CloudWatch metrics. So earlier it was very difficult to understand what are the different sources that we are getting, and what are the data that we are getting from the sources into the Lambda functions. So visibility was an issue. So with this announcement, what it enables is AWS Lambda team announced this, and now you can have CloudWatch metrics for event source mappings. So you get visibility into different sources, something like SQS, Kinesis, and DynamoDB, and whatever the data is being pulled from those and into the Lambda function, you get visibility into that. Right? So that was a interesting announcement. The second announcement with event source mapping was a provision mode. Right now, provision mode was announced for ESMs for Kinesis. So Apache Kafka, not Kinesis. So now what this means is basically if Apache Kafka is an event source for your ESMs, then you could have an option of a provision mode. Now with provision mode, it helps you. What it helps you do is if there is a case where there might be an auto scaling. So there might be things where your Kafka or your as a source is giving a lot of data to your Lambda function, right? So in that case, throughput or you will be running into throttling issues. So that's the use case where you could use a provision mode and you could optimize your throughput so that you don't run into these throttling issues, right? So this was the announcement with event source mapping called provision mode, and this is specific to Apache Kafka as an event source. Okay. Yeah, I think with that said, it comes to the end of my session. The few links I think that would really be helpful. One of them is AWS community. So AWS is a good link where you can scan and then there's other things as well. For example, you can scan that into protocols, which use LinkedIn or Twitter of AWS protocols. So it's really good resource to explore more and explore more around AWS. Thank you everyone for this session. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can scan this code. It has my link tree. You can maybe connect more and we can discuss more on it.
Oh, that was an amazing session, Adit. So, data is like everything today, and we just explored how AWS makes it easy for us to analyze, manage, and integrate data with smarter decisions. So, a huge shout out for Adit for sharing such invaluable insights. So, if you have any questions, you can put it in the live comment, so we'll answer to it. So, thanks, Adit.
Yeah. Thanks, Bhubaran. Thanks for having me.
Hi.
So, moving forward to our next session. It it will be on security, identity, and compliance by Dr. Abhilasha Vyas. So she is a manager at Accenture. So security is a major priority in today's cloud world, and in this session we'll cover all the latest AWS security updates and strategies. So some of the best practices that we can use for IAM, and also how AWS helps in managing businesses to meet compliance requirements. So let's get started.
All, welcome to this session. In this, we will be discussing about security, identity, and compliance announcement from AWS reInvent 2024. This is a recap, which is planned and designed and organized by AWS User Group Madurai. Thank you, Pavlan P, for inviting me to deliver a session in which I will be talking about 16 announcements. 11 are pre-reinvent. So a couple of a few announcements which I will be sharing with you in today's session. This is a little bit about me. I'm a core team member, AWS User Group Vadodara. I'm active speaker and I love to contribute in tech communities and different organizations. I also mentor students and other aspiring women in tech to advance in their career. And I want to push the boundaries, and I always stress that sky is a limit. And yeah, that's it all about me. So let's start and learn about few big announcement which will help us in making our resources secure in AWS environment. So this is the first announcement, that is resource control policies. So this is a new authorization policy which is managed in AWS organization, and that can be used to set the maximum available permissions on your resources within your entire organization. Now, these are type of preventive controls that help you establish data sensitivity, data parameter in your AWS environment, and restrict the external access to the resources at a scale. And what I want to add in that is these are enforced centrally within organization, and resource control policies provides the confidence to the central government governance and security teams that access to resources within their AWS accounts conforms to their organization's access control guidelines. So resource control policies are available in all commercial AWS regions, and at the launch, few services are supported like AWS S3, AWS Secure Token Service, AWS Key Management, AWS Simple Queue Service, AWS Secret Manager, and there are no additional charges for enabling and using RCP. So that's amazing. Uh, it's all about that. And wanted to add one more thing is that if you see this, the screenshot is also given over here, that we have the supported policy types. And in this supported policy type, we can enable this resource control policies, and then we can utilize the services which are available. And then we can help and manage the policies which we are creating for the uh, resources. So another very important announcement from AWS for reInvent is centralized management of root access. So it is a new capability which allow the security teams to centrally manage root access for member accounts in AWS organization. Now we can easily manage root credentials, and we can perform highly privileged actions with ability to establish a root session in a member account. So for a long time, AWS accounts were provisioned with highly privileged root user credentials, which had unrestricted access to the account. Now this root access is very powerful and also posed a significant security risk as well. Now each AWS account's root user had to be secured by adding layers of protection like multi-factor authentication, and security teams were required to manage and secure these root credentials manually. So that's going to be really challenging. And the process involved rotating credentials periodically and then storing them securely and making sure that credentials compile with security policies. Now, as our customer uh, is expanding the AWS environment, now this manual process is becoming more and more cumbersome and prone to errors, because one customer may be having multiple accounts to manage. In that case, the chances of error is more. So large enterprise operating hundreds of thousands of member accounts, now they are struggling to secure root access consistently across all accounts. We are talking about thousands of accounts. Now the manual intervention not only add the operational overhead, but also create a lag in account positioning, preventing full automation and also increasing security risk. Root access, if not properly secured, could lead to account takeovers and unauthorized access to sensitive resources. Now, with this new centrally managed root access, which is recently launched, it is addressing the long-standing challenge of managing root credentials across multiple accounts. So this new capability introduced two essential capabilities. The first is central management of root credentials and root sessions. Now these two together offer a security team a secure, scalable, and compliant way to manage root access across AWS organizations member account. So this is really amazing. And if you notice, in every screen, I have a QR code attached. These are the slides which I'm using from AWS Invent Recap PDF. So in every slide, you will see that we have a QR code, and also it is showing that it is available in the general availability, on which date it is announced. And this is for all reasons. So these all details you can check from the slide itself. It's mentioned over here. Let's move to the next one. So this is a new announcement, that is new Amazon Cognito features. So it is mentioned that after 10 years from the initial announcement, Amazon Cognito gets a well expected overhaul with batch of updates. So Amazon Cognito is a service that help you implement customer identity and access management CIAM in your web and mobile application. Now you can use Amazon Cognito for various use cases, from providing your customers to quickly add sign in and sign up experiences to your applications, and authorization, to securing machine to machine authentication and enabling role-based access to AWS services. So Amazon Cognito now offers a streamlined getting started experience, which features a quick wizard and a use case specific recommendations. So this new approach is going to help us in setting up configurations and reach the end users faster and more efficiently than ever before. So this new Amazon Cognito flow is going to help you quickly set up your application. You can get started in simple 3 steps. First, you can choose the type of the application you need to build, configure the sign-in options according to the type of your application, follow the instructions to integrate the sign-in and sign-up pages with your application. So this is very important to understand that how quickly you can create your applications with more security. So you will be getting improved developer experience DX for popular programming languages, and improved UX user experience with new UI in AWS Management Console. Also, you have a facility to work on managed login. It's an improved version of hosted UI with enhanced of customization, visual builder, and also templates. Also, you have a ability to provide a passwordless login, which include passkey authentication. And also you can see the other details. And if you want to read more about new Amazon Cognito features, you can scan this QR code to get the more details. Now moving on to the next announcement, which is really going to be helpful for all the security professionals, that is extended threat detection for guard duty. So this new capability allows us to identify sophisticated multi-stage attacks, which is targeting your AWS accounts, workloads, and data. You can now use new attack sequence findings that cover multiple resources and data sources over an extensive time period, allowing you to spend less time on first level analysis and more time responding to critical severity threats to minimize business impact. Now, Guard Duty Extended Threat Detection uses AI and machine learning algorithms, which are trained at AWS scale and automatically correlate security signals from across AWS services to detect critical threats. Now, this capability allows for the identification of attack sequences such as credential compromised, uh, data exfiltration, and represent them as a single critical severity finding. Now, this finding include an incident summary, a detailed event timeline, mapping to Mithray attack tactics and techniques, and also remediation recommendations also. So everything is coming over there. So this particular service is available in all AWS commercial regions where guard duty is available. And this capability is automatically enabled for all new and existing guard duty customers at no additional cost. And you do not need to enable all guard duty protection plans. And if you enable the additional thing, it will definitely going to increase the breadth of security signals, which allow for more comprehensive threat analysis and coverage of attack scenarios. And then you can take the action on the findings directly from the guard duty console uh, with its integration with AWS Security Hub, AWS Event Bridge. So all those things you can do. So that's all about the extended threat detection for guard duty. Let's move to the next one. And I just wanted to bring one point over here that this QR code will help you in understanding more about this. If you scan it, then we have a AWS Security Incidents Response. So AWS Security Incidents Response is a new service which is designed to help organizations manage security events quickly and effectively. And this service is purpose built to help customers prepare for, respond to, and recover from various uh, security events, which include account takeovers, data breaches, ransomware attacks, and many more other things. And it basically automates the triage and also investigate security findings from Amazon Guard Duty, and also integrate third-party threat detection tools using AWS Security Hub. So this service basically offering automated monitoring and investigation of security findings uh, to free up your resources from the routine tasks just to check the reports which are coming. So this is basically communicating and collaborating the features, streamlining responses, coordination, and uh, managing it all together. These are the other announcements which I'm not covering in this session. You can go and check this. I think if you will search for the AWS reInvent recap slides, you will get those slides, and then it will be easy for you to get those links and work on the links. I'll be happy to help you if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn for getting the PDF link, or you have any other questions related to your learning. So thank you once again, AWS User Group Madurai, for organizing this and giving opportunity to me. And happy learning all of you. And thank you once again for listening this session, and best wishes for your learning journey uh, with AWS. Thank you.
So that was a wonderful session, Abhilasha. So this wraps our final session for the AWS reInvent recap. So security is like a foundation for cloud computing, and today's session gave us some great insights and takeaways on how AWS is making the cloud safer and more reliable. So a huge shout out to the speakers, Adit and Abhilasha, for sharing their expertise today. And of course, a big thank you for all our amazing audience. So your engagement made this AWS Reinvent Recap series a great success. So over these 3 days, we covered a lot of latest AWS announcements in generative AI, machine learning, cloud infrastructure, storage, developer tools, and today we saw about analytics, business integration, app integration, and security. So drop your key takeaways that you got from this series in the comments. So we'd love to hear what you found most useful. So also stay connected with AWS UG Madurai and AWS UG Dehradun for more awesome events and exciting opportunities. So with this, so this is the official wrap of this AWS reInvent 2024 recap series. So until next time, happy learning and happy cloud computing. So to access the slides, you can get these slides in AWS reInvent AWS Events website. So there, the slides will be. You can see the slides along with the videos as well. So thank you for the session. So signing off.